Hello everybody, Floppy Waffles 69 here guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today I have a full deep dive review analysis of the brand spanking new Tier 8 premium pan-European battleship, the Turgut reis. Obviously, to condense that down, I'll just be referring to this ship as the TR because I really don't want to keep potentially saying the name wrong. Anyways, guys, this is the brand spanking new, all singing, all dancing pan-European battleship. This obviously is following the trend that Wargaming likes to do. They usually like to release premium ships with the newer lines. Of course, this one coming an update after the official release of the whole entire line, I believe. So this is going to be at Tier 8, and this is competing directly with, I believe it's called the Iton, which is in the tech tree. Obviously, there is going to be some subtle differences, but overall, the general feel and play style of the ships are very similar. They're not identical, but they are pretty damn similar. Now, obviously, before I start off this video here, I want to explain how you're going to be obtaining this ship. There are two ways to possibly get this ship as of right now. One is gambling through the Golden Week containers, so loot boxes. Kind of a shame, but typical. And the second one being you can flat out buy this ship for 120 US dollars here on NA for a Admiral bundle. You know, a lot of players would say, you know, I'm just happy there's a direct purchase option, and that's true, okay? We have to agree with that we are glad that you can go ahead and purchase the ship outright, but at the same time, for 120 US dollars, that is overkill, to put it lightly. I think it's absolutely insane, and you know, it honestly makes me question about, like, you know, I want to give you guys reviews on ships, but there ain't no way in hell I'm going to be spending the money to obtain these ships just to give you guys reviews on them, because that is a lot of freaking money, and I could do wonders with $120. Like, a lot of other things I could pick up for 120 bucks, and I'm just not going to spend it on an Admiral bundle, which is all I want is the damn ship. So the fact that they can't even just give us a just direct, you know, purchase of the ship and just the ship, they have to throw all this extra fluff in there to order to inflate or raise the price, is a bit frustrating for me. Now, anyways, I have to talk about how I obtained the ship. I actually got super duper lucky and obtained her through a free Golden Week container that dropped in the Battle Pass. I know, crazy. I wish I had, and I wish I was recording that when that happens so you guys can actually see it, but it's one of those things you're just gonna have to believe me here. I did not, in no way, shape, or form spend 120 US dollars to pick up this ship, and nor should you. And that's kind of what I'm going to say right off the get-go for you guys, is don't look at that price and do not spend on that price. What I would do is, if this is a ship that you would like to have, I would say maybe buy, what, 5 crates max, give it a whirl, and if you don't get it, then you don't fricking get it. It doesn't matter. Or you can take that money you put towards crates and just go to the premium shop and pick up a different ship. I don't think this ship is one of those ships that, oh my god, I need to have, but it is quite a strong ship, and I'm going to get into why that is. Another frustrating feature is the ship rarity system that Wargaming implemented about 6 to 7, 8, maybe some 8 months ago. And what that basically is they're labeling ships in order to justify when they're going to be around for selling, and the purchase price. Sadly, this ship is labeled a rare, I believe, which means this is not a guarantee that we will see this ship as a direct purchase option again in this game for either quite some time, or if at all. I would be surprised if this ship isn't just solely put into loot boxes for you to obtain that way, because they feel that this is a type of ship that a lot of people will throw a lot of money at loot boxes for to obtain. And again, I'll talk about that in a bit, which is rather upsetting. Usually when we get uncommon ships, we see them in about 6 months to 8 months back in the armory for direct purchase for doubloons, like we saw for the Sabir or the Yinshan, for example. This one is rare, so this is even ahead of that. So again, we really don't know when we're going to be seeing this ship again, which is very, very frustrating and very concerning because they are definitely preying upon the whole FOMO element here. Wargaming's been doing that a lot here of late, at least for the last, I don't know, 2-3 years at least I remember. Probably later on, or earlier on too, excuse me, but again, I'm just thinking about right here and right now, especially when this new rarity system came into play around 6 to 8 months earlier in order to justify them doing that. But anyways, I digress. In the background, you just see some really incredible footage of what this ship can potentially do. This is just kind of the filler why I go ahead and like generally introduce the ship before I get into the port analysis side of this vessel. And I'll flat out say this to you guys. I really like this ship, and I found a lot of success with her when I got her. I think I put around 10 to 15 battles in this vessel for you guys. So that I really got a full understanding of what this ship is going to be able to bring and do for you, and especially more importantly for a lot of us, because we're not going to be spending $120 or throwing money out for loot crates, how to take this ship down on the battlefield. From a strong set of consumables to 7 419mm guns, this ship brings a unique play style that is very, very fun. So without further ado, guys, let's get on into the port analysis section of this video. So I can go ahead and showcase the statistics and talk a little bit about her, about the Turgut reis or the TR. Alrighty, so here we are in port with the TR, and honestly guys, she is a gorgeous looking ship. And if you look at her at first, basically what do you see? If you are familiar with the Rook for the Royal Navy battlecruiser line, this is basically a Rook hull in the shape and form of the Rook. But the only difference here between the Rook is actually you pick up 32mm plating, which is awesome. If you look at the armor layout here, you see gone are the days of the green, light green, whatever, 16mm nose and ass. You actually pick up 32mm plating, which is awesome. That brings us in line with standard battleships here at tier 8 and higher. If we look at this too, we have a deck of 32mm and we have a belt armor of 305mm as well. Now, if we go ahead and look and strip away all that and look at the Citadel, we can see that the Citadel is actually waterline to like slightly below. Honestly, guys, I still have never found this ship to be incredibly hard to Citadel, so the ship can definitely still be punished. So don't think that you are immune to Citadels just based on your Citadel placement. Obviously, the Citadel does stretch right in front with the first turret down all the way to the third turret. But again, just because she's right there at the waterline and a little bit under it doesn't mean she is Citadel proof. She will definitely eat Citadels from time to time, so you have to be careful, especially at those medium and longer ranges. Moving on into the survivability, and I want to double check I don't have my signal flags. Go ahead and take those off. We are coming in at 59,200 with a torpedo protection or reduction of 13%. Not very good on regards of the torpedo reduction. So torpedoes are your nemesis. You're going to have to stay vigilant on that and know where the potential threats are going to be coming from. Moving into the artillery. Now, the first thing I want to point out are the turret firing angles are very nice on the Turgut reis. I really found them, especially in the kited position, very comfortable to utilize, and definitely no problem keeping my 7 barrels on the target. In the kited position, my first turret can go back to 24 degrees. The second turret indeed matches it at 24 degrees, and again going forward, the third turret is at the 30 degrees going forward. Very comfortable to utilize. Not many complaints in that department here, which is nice because a lot of battleships I usually tend to complain about the turret firing angles, but again, not the Turgut reis here or the TR. Again, these are 419mm guns. What does that mean? Basically, think Royal Navy, Duncan and Lion guns, essentially is what you got here. The shell travel time for these shells potentially are going to be, let me just double check that for you guys real quick. Yeah, so where are they? Gosh, I don't know why I can't see it right now. Whatever. But regardless, I didn't find the shell travel time that hard in order to, like, that long to lead. You're basically coming in at the high explosive at 792 meters a second, and then the armor piercing is 747 meters a second. It is one of those things, though, it looks like it's going to be faster shell arcs going down range, but matter of fact, you do have to understand that it is more in line with Royal Navy battleships. Kind of floaty, but not super floaty, if that makes sense. Again, you will see examples of that as we go on into the battle. Now, some big downsides, or a balancing feature more often, let's just call it that, of the Turgut Reis or the TR here is the 32-second reload compared to something like the Titan, for example, which again is the tier 8 in the Pan-European battleship line. That ship's reload is actually clocking in at 26.5 seconds. So this is considerably longer in order to, fire your salvos, and not to mention you are a 2 turrets short. The Titan has 9, you only have 7, but again, your gun caliber is larger. So what does that translate to? That actually translates to better overmatch potential. I believe you can go ahead and overmatch, is it 20, I'm trying to do my math here, 29 millimeters of effective armor, while the Titan can only overmatch 26. And again, the important threshold here is that 27 millimeters. The reason why is because the Titan cannot overmatch something like the Des Moines, for example, that has that 27 millimeter nose, but the Turgut can go ahead and do that, which is quite nice. Again, you have less shells going down range, but again, you have overmatch potential. But that's not all. One big thing that is very noticeable on the TR here is you actually have battle cruiser dispersion with the 2.0 Sigma, which is super nice compared to something like the Titan that is 1.8 with battleship dispersion. The Turgut's guns feel very comfortable to utilize, and again, generally speaking, the shells are going where you want them to go. Again, I have noticed from time to time, shells are dispersing out horizontally where they really shouldn't have, but the vertical dispersion, at least in my opinion, feels pretty good. All in all, the dispersion is improved, so it is that battlecruiser dispersion, so the guns are going to feel drastically better, especially if you are like a battleship main and been playing battleships a lot. The shells and the gunnery are going to feel pretty damn comfortable as well to utilize. So again, really no complaints there. I mean, every now and then you're going to have those stray salvos, like where the hell are my shells going? Are my gunners drunk? But again, that's balance, guys. It's going to happen. We can't have pinpoint accurate shells all the time because that is just directly going to absolutely shit pump cruisers that are already in a tough spot anyways. So I am, again, on a side note, super happy that mid-tier cruisers are going to be getting heals. But again, I digress. Moving into the 180-degree turn time, it is 25 seconds, and again, you do come up with a 18.5-kilometer range on this ship. Looking at the high explosive, 6150 with chances set targets on fire with 47%, and then you have that armor penetration capability of 70 millimeters. Your maximum damage for your armor piercing is actually quite high with 13,050. This is actually better than a lot of battleships at this tier, which is going to be noticeable. So it is going to allow you to punish those enemy ships pretty damn good, especially if you get your AP to connect. I have noticed that, which again is all about trading. You have a longer reload, but again, when you do fire, you will theoretically be able to do a lot of damage with these guns as long as your AP does penetrate, and if you score those juicy Citadel ribbons. One thing to keep in mind though, and I've seen some players do this already. Again, this is a newer ship, so a lot of players are trying to learn it, but again, I learned this too. Bow tanking in this ship is not good. One thing that really has helped me out play this ship well is trying to utilize all 7 of my guns. And then making sure that you don't just sit in and like this nose in unless you absolutely have to because you're in a bad situation to just use 4 of your guns. Sure, you have battlecruiser dispersion, your shells are going to be a little bit more accurate, but again, 4 guns going, just nose in like that, I have noticed that it doesn't feel the best. One thing that I want to give you guys is that you want to try to stay moving at all times. I think it leads to a better experience and a little bit more game impact if you stay mobile all game. Another thing too that I want to point out on this ship that I have noticed is actually the secondaries. The secondary battery on the ship is actually very nice, and I'm not going to go into all the secondary DPM or the hitting DPM and all that, because again, at the end of the day, your range is only 6.6 kilometers, and I would highly recommend you do not spec into your secondaries. But that being said, your secondaries crank out a decent amount of DPM and have a lot of shells that go downrange. Again, we're not like tying levels of like Zeiton, okay? That's not what I'm saying, but I was actually pleasantly surprised with the amount of damage I was doing with my secondary batteries, which was really quite nice. So if you find yourself in those brawling-esque situations, it is very nice to have a secondary battery that can set those occasional fires and kind of finish off those targets as well. Going into another thing that this ship has, yes, yet another battleship with torpedoes, as you can see. And these are like the weird torpedoes that ships like the, I guess you could say like the British battle cruisers have and stuff like that, except those are kind of underwater. These are above water, so theoretically you could knock them out. Only 6 kilometers. These are the squiggle wiggle wiggle torpedoes. That means you have a really good firing angle. They get shot out horizontally, but they can move vertically because you have a wider torpedo arc and firing angle with these torpedoes. So if we go ahead and look at the TR's torpedo firing angles, they actually do go 50 to 50. So 50 degrees outward as they can launch and go. Again, you are towards the rear end of your ship, as you can see, so they can't really go forward. You are going to have to expose some broadside or a lot of broadside in order to get these off. But at least it is helping you with those squiggle wiggle torpedoes that can go ahead and go out and then kind of swim their way over to where you actually want them to go, which again is quite nice. Again, 6 kilometer maximum range, maximum damage is 17,500, 70 knots with a detectability range of 1.5. And keep in mind, these torpedoes have a decent amount of arming time, so you can't be right next to the ship and launch them. Your torpedoes will not arm, and they will not do any amounts of damage in basically away. So you have to make sure you start your maneuver and turn out a decent ways away from the ship. I would say more than 2 kilometers in order to be safe, depending on the speed of the target, and try to time their reload to the best of your abilities. Yes, your Citadel is harder to hit on the ship, but again, it all comes down to how much HP you have when you're doing these maneuvers and where the enemy threats are other than the one you're trying to torpedo. Going into the airstrike, again, 10-kilometer range, 2 attacking flights, really nothing special. Battleship still having the best ASW in the game other than CVs. A defense, pretty dog shit, I'm not gonna lie to you. This is definitely a target. If you're an enemy carrier or hybrid ship, just go ahead and strike this thing because it's gonna have little to no rebuttal against your enemy aircraft coming in to hit it. And again, it's coated in 32 millimeters of armor, so HE is going to do absolute disgusting things to this ship. Maneuverability, 31.9 knots, turning circle radius of 950 meters, and rudder shift time of 14 knots. Pretty damn good. Like, honestly, I have really no big complaints about the handling of this ship. I felt it to be relatively comfortable and easy to use, but again, it's going to come down to you. If you feel like you need to improve that rudder shift time, then by all means go do it. I think I spec'd in the 4th slot the engine prop so I can go and stop and start it a little bit better, which is going to allow me to throw off enemy shells with engine juking rather than relying on rudder juking. Again, hopefully that's not contradicting what I said about making sure you stay mobile, because even when I'm prop juking or engine juking, I'm still staying mobile. I'm just going from 0, like quarter speed to full speed and kind of throwing them off because I can start and stop 50% quicker. Well, start 50% quicker. And then lastly, let me go ahead and send this guy to reserve. Concealment on the ship. As you know, you can go ahead and slot the concealment modification. That's going to go ahead and get you down to 13.3. And again, with the commander on the ship as well, it's going to get it down to 12 kilometers. That is pretty damn comfortable. Really no complaints there. I find that to be relatively stealthy and easy to utilize. Again, there are ships that are stealthier, of course, but again, 12 kilometers on a battleship that has 7 419 millimeter guns with battle cruiser dispersion and some other tricks up its sleeve is very, very comfortable. So again, really no complaints there. Very, very strong. Now, if we go ahead and look at the upgrades of the TR, I went ahead and took main armaments modification 1 in the 1st slot. Again, if you feel like, you want to make sure you manage your damage control part a little bit better and have that extra action time, yes, damage control party mod 1 is an excellent choice, and I would highly stand behind that as well and recommend that to you. But again, for me, main armaments 1 with protecting my turrets and my torpedoes, to me, just made a little bit more sense, and I feel like I can manage my damage control party to where I'm be playing the ship anyway. So really not a big concern for me. In the second slot, I actually went damage control system modification 1, and a lot of players would probably argue with me and says, Waffle, why are you not taking surveillance radar modification 1 to increase your consumable action time to 20%? Again, for me, at least what I found that the Turgut's radar, because you have that 2-kilometer gap between your radar coverage at 10 kilometers and your full stealth build at 12, the radar for me is more of a late game deterrence than it is early game cap contention supporting allies. I don't know what it is. Like, it's completely contradicting or throwing a kink in the chain compared to the remainder of the line of like the Thor line with the Iton. The Iton, because it's stealthier, can get up there, has torpedoes, has that emergency engine speed boost to get the hell out of dodge if it needs to, and kind of elude shells and torpedoes. I just found the Turgut's radar to be more of a second thought compared to other ships like the Iton, if that makes, if that's a good example. And again, I'll get into more of that here when we get into the video. So damage control systems modification 1 is the one for me. Again, if you find yourself playing a little bit more on the ranked or competitive side of things, then yeah, I think, slotting the radar modification 1 isn't a bad idea at all. But again, I don't really play too much ranked. I will dabble every now and then. I play more on the random side of things, operations, co-op, asymmetrics, that sort of stuff, and brawls every now and then, and I feel like damage control systems mod was the choice for me. Third slot, no-brainer, aiming systems mod 1. If you already have better battlecruiser dispersion, then why not make it even better as is, right? So we're going to go ahead and slot that. Fourth slot, I am taking prop modification 1. If you're finding yourself being burnt down, you're very much of an aggressive player and all that, yeah, damage control systems modification 2 or whatever is a good choice. But for me, this helped me out a lot, and it's something I would highly recommend on the ship is prop modification 1. And then in concealment, no frickin' brainer. Moving on into the commander, and the commander build as is right now is all I have. I don't have a 21-point commander. Again, if you're new to my channel, understand that I don't just flip commanders from ship to ship. I always put the specific commander and build her for that specific ship. I don't go ahead and bounce them around. Like, obviously, if you are grinding your Thor commander, you're grinding your Gustav commander, and you happen to have this ship, yes, it's an excellent crew trainer for those ships. I think probably the Johann's a little bit better, but that's just me. But yes, you can do that as well. Me personally, I don't really do that. So, of course, I'm going to take Emergency Repair Specialist. I'm going to take Grease the Gears. I'm actually going ahead and picking up Basics of Survivability and Concealment. And then with my 13-point commander, I go ahead and take Adrenaline Rush. After that, I will be taking Emergency Repair Expert, and that becomes, or the reason why I'm taking that becomes apparent is because you actually get a super heal on this ship. So the, what is that? Make sure I get the right designation. The specialized repair teams. That's what it is. The specialized repair teams on this ship. And I want to go from 3 charges to 4. I think that's a no-brainer for me. And I'm already taking the basics of survivability. I don't think I need to be too concerned with fire prevention expert or whatever like that. That's just my opinion. Again, I could be wrong, but that's just how I feel. So I'm taking the emergency repair expert. And lastly, I believe I'm actually going to be picking up the Furious skill because I'm not taking fire prevention, so I'm going to be able to min-max this. I understand a lot of players go ahead and take super heavy AP shells, but sadly, because I'm not taking fire prevention, I feel like I really need to take basics of survivability. So I'm not going to be taking super heavy AP shells in order to up my AP shell damage and damage taken from flooding and fires. Instead, I'm going to be maximizing that reload buff of minus 10 seconds to help me out with Adrenaline Rush. With Adrenaline Rush to get below 32 seconds of a base reload so I can fire shells more, increasing my DPM. Again, I only have 7 shells, so I want to make sure that I can make my DPM faster by all means and get those shells down range. The only other thing I could realistically see myself taking is actually dropping basics of survival. Oh, sorry, not basics of survival. Dropping emergency repair expert and actually taking improved repair party readiness, that mixed with something like preventative maintenance, incoming fire lord, or gun feeder is another viable option as well, because as long as I'm having that potential damage on me, I can still basically get another charge as well. But in my opinion, I'd rather just get flat out a better charge, have longer action control time and repair party action time by 10%. I just think it's a no-brainer skill based upon the build that I'm currently running on the ship. And again, maybe down the road I'll give an update on what it is, but just understand that, I can't talk about testing. I'm not going to do that. But this build works for me. Okay, and that's what I'm going to be shooting for. And again, I'll do an update video on her if, you know, when I get a 21 point commander, whenever the hell that's going to be. So anyways, guys, that is the Turgut. I actually really like this ship. It just is such a pisser for me that you have to shell out basically a left hand in order to pick this ship up. And it really shouldn't be that. To me, I don't know what rare ships are or whatever, but if this ship was like it used to be, and they used to stuff tier 8 premium ships in the armory, or sorry, in the premium shop for what, $50-$60, yes, I could probably recommend you guys to pick that ship up. But when you're doubling that because of a stupid admiral bundle with all that extra fluff that you realistically, you know, don't need, I can't sit here and recommend this ship to you guys, okay? Obviously, this is going to be a strong ship. This ship is strong, and also it's a very fun ship too. And to me, even when you get up tiered in a ship like this at tier 8 and go to tier 10 games, and you really aren't too worried, that's the sign that your ship is incredibly strong. So, and that's my biggest thing I wanted to point out to you guys, is I had no problem getting thrown into tier 10 games with this ship, unless it's an aircraft carrier aim, because then you become absolute fodder. But guys, without further ado, let's go ahead and check out some gameplay here in the TR. Alrighty guys, and here we are in battle with the TR. We are top tier as well on the Seychelles map, and this is the upgrades and commander build that I am, well, not currently have, but will be getting on this ship, and it's something that I would definitely recommend as a guide for you if you're looking at like, well, how do I build this thing and how am I going to find success? You know, sometimes we sit there and we do a lot of cookie cutter builds, a lot of the builds because they're just tested and true. But, you know, at the same time, too, Wargaming releases premium ships in order to influence certain commander skills. And to me, I don't know, like, do you have to take the Furious skill? No, absolutely not. But it's one of those things like, why would I not want to try to allow myself to turn a negative into a positive, the negative being getting set on fire, and trying to up my overall DPM so I can go ahead and fire more shells. So, anyways, guys, how do I play the TR? Well, in my honest opinion, I do play her like a battle cruiser. You know, obviously, it's based upon the Rook. Yes, you don't have a speed boost, but your ship is relatively fast there at like basically 32 knots. Relatively stealthy as well, and you have that 10-kilometer radar. So I do like to play as that second line BB, kind of like where the cruisers like to play, so that I can hopefully go ahead, move up on the map, stay undetected until a cruiser wants to go ahead and shoot at my allied destroyer or allied cruiser, and that's when I go ahead and open up on the enemy cruiser. This ship really likes to shoot at enemy cruisers, by the way. Based upon the way the armor piercing works, it's just, my god, the penetration is great, the overmatch potential is great, your impact speed is great, like all in all, and you have a heavier shell too, like all in all, this ship really does dish out the damage. And again, you shouldn't need any more, I guess, information other than knowing, like, for example, the Iton has 12,100 maximum AP shell damage. This thing has 13,050 shell damage. Now, if we go ahead and compare that to something that has the same guns as the TR, so something like the Lion, it actually is beating out the Lion as well with an additional 50 damage. And again, a lot of people are like, well, Waffle, that's 50 damage. Like, is it really gonna make that much of a difference? I have actually found, even with penetrations and overpens, yes, it makes a difference, which is gonna translate to just more damage being done to the enemy at a single time and salvo. So yes, it does make a difference. But again, you don't have shorter fused armor piercing on the ship like the Lion and that whole line has, the Conqueror line or whatnot, at like the 0.015 second. You actually have the standard 0.033 second. So again, standard AP shells should feel pretty normal. You should know what to get out of her when you're using her and shooting her artillery. Interesting game here, right? You know, obviously there is some interesting decisions being made by our allies, so I'm trying to read off them as well. You know, kind of weird too, only 3 battleship game. This is an oddity for sure, and I really like this. I know a lot of players bitch about, oh, there's too many destroyers, oh, there's too many, like, no one's bitching about too many cruisers, and especially in a battleship, I'd rather the cruisers outweigh the amount of BBs in a game anyways, because right now, I can overmatch cruisers. So that gives me a target-rich environment, so to speak. So I don't know why people really complain about that, but whatever. Like, I guess I understand if it's destroyers. You know, I understand that. And you know, double CV game here at tier 8. I understand those games, but like everything else, like I don't know, man. I think we should encourage more cruiser gameplay. It's just my opinion. And hopefully this move that Wargaming's doing by giving mid-tier cruisers heals, hopefully this will do that. So, one thing that's nice about the TR is not only the radar, but the super heal, which is going to allow us to make maneuvers that that a lot of other battleships really couldn't do. And what I mean by that is basically just going in there and ripping the band-aid off and understanding that, yes, we're probably going to take damage, but I can go ahead and maneuver, maybe mitigate the amount of torpedoes I take and damage I take, and have a super heal in my back pocket where I can go ahead and heal back that potential damage that I just took. So again, sitting here on the Benson, we go ahead and push him. I don't even actually have to utilize my radar. I was actually getting ready to pop it because I felt he was still in the smoke screen. I go ahead and eat a torpedo on the nose. I don't give a crap because I can go ahead and use my damage control party, and I go ahead and pop my super heal right away, and there you go. We're basically still in the fight. I mean, again, only one torpedo. It's not like I took 3 or 4, you know, potentially still, you know, had a chance at dying there. But again, we go ahead, we eliminate the tier 8 destroyer on this flank, and then I'm going to go ahead, switch back to armor piercing, and go ahead and rush this Bismarck. I don't think the Bismarck knew I have torpedoes, so again, one thing to make sure is when you're fighting the ship, especially in your brawling battleships, you have to be careful because this ship does have torpedoes. You have to tread with caution and don't just think you're going to come in and ram the damn thing. So especially if you start seeing them maneuver and the ship starts turning broad, yeah, just understand that torpedoes are going to be coming your way. But also, on the contrary, if you want to hold your fire until the ship is forced to show that big side profile, just understand the torpedoes, like, they have not the best firing angle, so you can go ahead and use that to your advantage and go ahead and wait basically until the TR turns broadside to you, and then you can go ahead and punish him in return. Again, if you're going to score citadels, it's kind of a crapshoot. Usually when the ship turns, it kind of lifts its ship out of the water, so it raises that citadel, so that's really when it becomes vulnerable. Also, I think a lot of ships just didn't realize I have a radar as well. So if you find yourself in a radar ship and you think you're just going to fall off in sub 10 kilometers, not going to happen. So radar, super heal, torpedoes. You have to be careful with this ship. This ship has the ability to do exactly what I'm doing, which is pushing headfirst into the flank. I'm taking it by storm. As long as you have good vigilance and know where the enemy torpedo threats are going to be coming from, your survivability is going to go up. Yes, torpedoes are a massive concern for you in this ship because you only have 13% reduction, but at the same time, you have a super heal, so you can make up for not having the best torpedo belt reduction, so to speak, okay? Some other things to talk about this ship that are worth basically mentioning that I found is that that battle cruiser dispersion. You know, you are seeing just the consistency of the armor piercing, or just the consistency of the shells landing on target. That's really what this ship brings. I think even when I'm shooting my 4 turrets, and again, I told you not to sit there and bow tank unless you absolutely have to, you are seeing that I am landing, I think, the vast majority of my shells. Which again is going to be super nice, because one thing I think all battleship players complain probably the most about, other than having destroyer players dying within the first 4 minutes, is the lack of consistency of your shells on the target. Now again, this is great if you're playing the battleship or the ship in question here, but not great if you're playing against the ship, especially in a cruiser that really relies on, pretty much at this stage of the game, dodging the whole salvo, because overmatch is the thing. A lot of cruisers are made out of paper, and you're pretty much just going to be eating damage regardless, which rather sucks, especially if you are in the eyes or behind the wheel of the cruiser, right? It's one of those things that you're going to have to recognize and understand that the advantage is definitely in the TR's corner. So I guess the best thing would be creating distance between you and this ship, because the closer you get, the chances are that he's just going to be able to pinpoint his shells on your ship as well. But yeah, guys, as you can see, this ship is definitely capable. It's a really good supporting battleship as well. So what are the weaknesses? Well, I already mentioned the 32 second reload. is kind of a weakness on this thing, and it is coated in 32 millimeters of armor. It's nice you have 32 millimeters of nose and ass because that prevents overmatch other than from 460 millimeter guns, but at the same time, you're kind of squishy, and the way your hull is shaped, you can see there in the rear end, and I forgot to mention this in the port analysis, you have those shell catchers. So when you are kited, those are all hull armor that's going to be eaten by AP shells that are going to be doing full penetration damage. So you have to be careful of that as well. It's just the way the hull is designed, so you're going to have to factor that in. So my final thoughts of the TR, guys, is this is a strong battleship. I believe you will be seeing this ship played a lot in competitive, and you'll be seeing this ship played in random battles as well, because of the radar, because you have so much solo carry potential in this ship, and its impact is so nice, and because it voids a massive weakness in battleships, which is the lack of consistency of your shells landing on target. All in all, the package of this ship is strong, and I think Wargaming knows this, and that's why they went ahead and rated this ship a rare, because they don't want this ship populating the server that anyone and everyone can have it, unless of course they're willing to pay a hefty price of $120 or go ahead and gamble more so than that, which is again what they're preying on. Cracking game. This is an E-rank game. A really good display of the pros and cons that this ship does have in its corner. But again, though, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. There's definitely more pros than there are cons to this ship. Just understand that the big drawback to this vessel is probably the smaller HP pool, which again is compensated with a super heal, and 7 guns that reload in 32 seconds, again, is going to be a compensation factor of this ship. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for tuning in to this in-depth review of the TR. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. Have a good rest of your day, guys, and peace out.